Oh, the drama. The dramatic culture war that's happening in the tabletop role-playing game hobby. Is there really sides? What is this war? How are we fighting it? Well, let's talk about that. It starts with far-left political activists entering the hobby and pushing their ideology. So you have that team. And then people in the hobby start pushing back. They come together. They form groups. And now you have another team. And now these two teams are going to play a game against each other. It's going to be the culture war. In reality, that whole war is unnecessary. Look, when we look at far-left political activists, given that they have a lot of bad ideas, why do they have success? I have pointed this out elsewhere, but I'll make the point again. They tie their ideology to credible issues, like being anti-racist, anti-bigoted. They really don't care about being anti-racist, anti-sexist. They don't care. They care about pushing their ideology. But they'll use these issues to push it. And it works. That's why they do it. It is probably one of the most successful things that they do. By tying their ideology to these issues, they know every time you support the issue, you support a push on their ideology forward into a nation, wherever they are, whatever nation they're in. So then it turns into really, something good for them every time we're doing the right thing. Well, it seems like we're doing the right thing. But an ideology that is putting a noose around our necks and trying to hang us, well, that's really what we're supporting. And it's sad that that's the case. It's sad that they were successful at tying their ideology to these issues. Now, don't get it wrong. There are ways to be anti-bigoted without pushing the ideology, but a lot of us are not doing that right now. You get people that do oppose, the far left in their ideology in the hobby. But they'll also start going, hey, but I'm anti-bigoted too. I take these positions too. And they don't realize every time they're doing that, they're really just supporting the ideology that they say that they oppose. We don't need a team. We really don't need a war. What we really need to do is stop failing on our end. Because the majority of success that the far left has isn't because they have a credible strategy. It's because their opponents, us, the people that want to push back on these bad ideas, we're failing. And within our failing, they're winning. Not because they're doing really good, it's because we're doing really bad. We don't accept, or at least many of us don't accept, that this whole anti-bigoted stance is really tied to the ideology. And every time you support it, at least in the way that they do, you're supporting the ideology. And they really do get empowered, and their ideology really does get pushed forward. And you can see the results of this just in the last 10 years, anyone who pays attention. Like, you may think to yourself, how are they winning over people, given that they have so many bad ideas? It is because they have tied those ideas to issues that most people take serious, like being anti-racist, right? That's a good position. But when you start supporting it, you're unknowingly supporting them, at least if you do it in the way that they do it. That is how they're winning, and we're not calling it out. So the best strategy that they have, again, is only good under the circumstances that most of us are not calling it out. It's almost like people are afraid to. They just want to say, their communist bad ideas are bad, but we agree with this other stuff. And I get why you have to keep saying that, but every time you say it that way, you're just giving them the victory. It doesn't matter that you opened up and said, hey, I oppose their communism, but I'm with them on the anti-racist stance. Well, are you? Well, then right away, the people you're talking to won't take that first part too serious, right, about the communism. They'll only notice the anti-bigotry stuff, and they'll credit those people as doing something good. And then suddenly you're realizing you're not convincing people in the middle to join a rational side. You're pretty much walking them over to the communists and saying, here's another one. I gave up that fight right away. And in reality, if you really look at the history of the leaders of the far left, you'll find out that they really have a history of real bigotry. They have been the bigots. All the hate that they're fighting against today is hate that they created, pushed, and caused. The culture war hasn't heated up recently. It's not stopped from when it started. It's not gotten cold. It's just, are you paying attention or are you not paying attention? And every time more people in the middle pay attention, we say, oh, it's heating up. Well, no, it's not. It's just being noticed. Maybe last week there wasn't a lot of public statements, but shit was still going on. You just didn't notice, right? So we're not part of some recent hot culture war. That is not what is happening. There is only one way to defeat the far left and their ideology, and that is to be absolute, to be unforgiving, to give no space to them at all, to give no credibility to anything they say, to realize that their push against bigotry is false, it's fake. We shouldn't even talk about it as if it's a thing tied to them. What I mean is this. So you might see what they're doing as bad, right? And they're tying it to some anti-bigotry thing. And at the end, even though you criticize, you turn around and say, yeah, but bigotry is a problem, and they might have a few points, but here's where they're wrong. The problem today is the middle, the people listening, they hear weakness, or they don't hear a solid argument against that person, solid enough to say, hey, I won't consider what they're saying. So they hear weakness. People need to hear absolutes, because most people are truly ignorant. Most people don't have the information that a small select few that are willing to speak about this stuff have. They haven't looked into it in the same way. So they're ignorant to begin with. And so then they hear things, if it's not strong, like strong enough for them to, because what are you asking people to do? Not bother listening to these, communists, right? We're trying to push back harshly against them. Well, the people that we need to influence, right, they don't have the same mindset that we do. They need to hear strong, absolute language about these people being in the wrong, and then no credibility being given to them on any level, not a pinch of sand worth. And every time you give a pinch out, you lose the argument. That's what's been happening. So there is only one way to defeat the ideology, and that is to be absolute in your criticism. Be brutal, end it with brutality. Don't sit there and give people that are fake leniency. Right? Don't credit them in any way or relate them in any way to an anti-bigotry movement. They are bigots that are pretending to care about these issues. So don't give them any at all. Again, no, none at all. Not a pinch of sand worth of credibility. Don't mention the fight against bigotry is a credible thing in the same sentence that you're speaking about them, with criticism. Anyway. If there are people in the TTRPG hobby that oppose this like me, they don't need to join a team. They don't need to be part of the war in that way. They can be an individual, and all they have to do is take my advice here. Push back and push back harsh without giving any credibility. And if everyone followed that, that approach to criticizing and dealing with the far left in the hobby, right? We wouldn't need a team, and the war wouldn't last too long, and we'd win. But if we're going to take teams, and we're going to half-ass verbally with our approach, because what are we fighting for? We're fighting over people, because the more people that side with us, the faster we push back and win the war. But if we're not getting people to side with us, we lose the war. So this is it's a tug of war. And you're losing the tug of war every time you ease off, right? Every time you ease up on criticism with language, you're losing. And they know it, and they use that as a way for them to win. Again, they're not winning because they're really good at the game. They're winning because we suck at it. Anyway, for now, take care. You know what you can do? You can hit the like button. You can share the video. Oh, and there's another button you can press. That one that lets you subscribe to my channel for more content. Oh yeah, there's that bell thing. You can press that so you know when I've uploaded a new video right away.